Hey guys, Carl from Purple Moose Place. Today I'm really excited to be able to take a look at Legacy of You, the new solo campaign game just hitting Kickstarter from publisher Garphill Games and designer Shem Phillips. This is a multi-use card resource management sort of risk mitigation game where you're playing the legendary You from ancient China, building canals and hurrying to get those canals built before the town is overtaken by a flood, all the while fighting off the barbarian forces and doing your best to get everything done in time. I'm very lucky to be able to have received a preview copy from the designer and the publisher themselves. I do also want to thank Mike at One Stop Co-op Shop for passing this prototype along to me so that I could do this coverage for you. With that said, I'm really excited to show you how this game plays, so let's head down to the table to see a playthrough. I should mention here that my playthrough will be a playthrough of the first story campaign mission. So if that's going to be bothering you, if you're worried about spoilers, I will put timestamps before and after each of those story moments, so you can skip ahead to the next timestamp if you don't want to hear the story in the game. But otherwise, I will do my best not to spoil any huge sort of mechanism introductions or changes to the core gameplay. So let's head down to the table, see how this game plays, and then I'll meet you back up here to let you know what I think. To set up your first game of Legacy of You, begin by taking the townsfolk cards, giving them a shuffle, and then counting out 10 cards and placing them down here at the bottom of the board. These will be your ready cards, and those are going to be the cards that are immediately available to us at the start of the game that we will begin playing with. You'll understand how that works as soon as we get into the gameplay. And then the remainder of the townsfolk cards go up here in the top corner. You then take the townsfolk cards and turn one over face up in all of these spaces except for this rightmost space. Then take the barbarian cards, give them a shuffle as well, and they'll get placed over here to the right of the board, filling in that final slot with one barbarian card. To complete the game setup, we then have to set up the board. We're going to next set up the canals, and we're going to separate the canal cards into stacks of cards based on which position of the canal they will go into. So this stack of cards we're going to shuffle and place in the first two slots of the canal. These cards we will shuffle and place in the middle two slots of the canal. And these we will shuffle and put in the rightmost two slots of the canal. Now it is worth mentioning here, in all openness and honesty, I did remove one card from these canal cards because it will unlock a game mechanism that I do want to keep a secret in this playthrough so that you can experience it on your own when you get to play the game yourself. And those cards will be placed faced up into the canal. And all of the remaining cards, after you've filled in the canal, will get placed back into the box. Next, you'll take the hut cards that look like this, give those a shuffle as well, and place one each on these four spaces, returning the rest of them to the box. You will then place the 3 farm buildings on those 3 spots, the 4 outpost buildings onto these spots here in the middle, and the 4 huts onto the 4 hut cards down here on the bottom right. And then finally, to finish setup of the board, we're going to place the flood here all the way to the left on the canal, and the barge on the first canal card right there. With that, we're finished setup of the game, but we should also set up our campaign as well. And to do that, we're going to simply take the story card deck and set that off to the side. And then we will also need to set up our victory and defeat decks. So for both of those, we're going to lay the gold card down on the table, and then we'll shuffle the other 6 cards of that type and place that on top of the gold card, and then we'll just set those off to the side. And then finally, on the back of the rulebook here, there's a very nice player aid with a sort of round structure built into it. I'll use that in just a minute to explain how the game plays, but also there's a slot here for the barge to be placed during the gameplay, so I will end up leaving this off to the side of the board as we play the game. But for right now, let's go ahead and get into an explanation of how the game plays. Legacy of You is going to play out over an undetermined number of rounds, and the goal of the game for me is for me to build all of these sort of offshoots from the canal before this wave or this flood ever catches up to my barge, or 7 barbarians fill up all of the slots at the top of the board. So basically I'm going to be fighting off the barbarians and building these offshoots from the canal to prevent the flood from happening. But if this flood should ever end up on the same space as my barge, or this should fill in with 7 barbarians, or I should ever run out of cards down here when I need to have one, the game will end. But otherwise, if I'm able to build all of these 6 cards, and there are not 7 barbarians, and the flood does not touch my barge, and I have not run out of cards before then, I have successfully beaten that game. And I'll show you at the end of this video, but when you have finished the game, if you successfully won the game, you're going to take the top victory card. And if you've lost the game, you're going to take the top defeat card and read whatever it says to do and refer to the story as necessary. Now, I didn't mention this in setup, but there is also a storybook that we will refer to anytime we trigger any cards that have this sort of golden turtle icon. You can see it here and here on these 2 cards, and other cards will come out that have that. And anytime I fulfill whatever that card is, we are going to refer to the storybook and read the story for that number. And often that means we're going to add in new cards and so on. But let's get into how the game plays. And to do that, I'm going to play through the first round slowly, step by step, explaining what's happening in each round. And the first step of the round is harvest. And for harvest, you're going to look for this sort of sun over water looking symbol here. And anything that's printed where that harvest is what you're going to harvest at the start of the round. So in this case, all of these buildings are blocking off, so I'm not harvesting anything right here. But down here, I'm going to get 4 cards from my ready pile. I'm going to get 1 laborer, 1 shell, and 1 provision. This one here says that for each of these purple buildings or the outpost buildings that I've built, I'll get an additional shell. But that's not happening now because I haven't built any of them. So right now, we're going to draw 4 of these cards. We'll get 1 shell, 1 provision, and 1 white meeple, which is a laborer meeple. And then we're ready to move on to the next step of the round, which is the bulk of the round where we're going to be taking actions. And the way that we're going to be taking actions is basically by using the cards in our hand, but we can also make some use of the cards up here in the top row. So let me explain how that works. For each of the cards in our hand, we sort of have a series of options. I can exhaust this card to my exhausted pile down here in order to get this top left printed thing. So in this case, I would be getting a yellow worker or an archer in this case. Or I can completely discard this card back over here into the sort of main supply, and I will get, in addition to that top left, whatever is printed here in the red section as well. So in this case, we'd get to draw an additional card from our ready pile. Now we don't really want to do that because I'll explain in a minute what happens, but we want to make sure that we have cards here. So the idea to get rid of cards back to the main supply is going to hurt us in the long run. So that will sort of only be in rare situations when I really, really need something, or towards the end of the game when I don't really need those cards anymore. And you'll see how that plays out as we go through. The other thing we can use these cards for is this ability that's printed down here at the bottom. And you'll see that's the harvest icon again. I can take a card and I can tuck it under an available slot on my board, which right now is just this one, but we'll unlock more of these as we build huts. And I can slide that underneath the board like this, and that will become something else that I will get from that point on every time we go back to that harvest section of the round at the beginning of a round. So again, in my hands, I can exhaust a card to here to get what's printed in the brown section only. I can discard a card back to the main supply to get both the brown section and the red section. Or I can slide it under available area to add to my harvest stuff for following rounds. In addition, we can interact with the cards up here by paying whatever the cost is below that card. So here I would spend 1 provision. Here I can actually use the card for free. And what I'm going to do with those cards is I have a couple of options. If I just simply discard the card back here, I can take whatever is in the top left corner, and that stays in the main supply. Or I can choose to recruit that card into my personal supply, into the exhausted pile. In that case, I don't get any rewards from the card immediately, but it is increasing the number of cards in my personal supply, and it means that I will have more cards moving forward, and that card will come out later as I cycle through my deck. And then I can then use it for the normal usage down here, meaning I could tuck the card or even get access to that red area if needed. So why are we doing these things? Again, we want to build these different offshoots from the canal, but we also want to fight off barbarians. And in order to build a canal section, we need to pay what it shows up here at the top of the card. So in this case, I would need to pay 2 laborers and 2 shells to unlock this card, and I would immediately get what it shows at the bottom here, which is 1 brick, 1 wood, and this means I would have to discard a card from the top of my ready pile back into that main supply stack. So it is going to hurt me as I do that a little bit, but it's giving me a reward, and it's also working towards the end of the game. But in addition, every time we uncover a new section on the board like this, it's giving me another ability. So when we start the game, I will have the ability to spend 3 shells to get a brick, spend 3 shells to get a wood. But if I had unlocked this section, I can now spend 2 shells to get 1 provision, and so on. You'll see how that works as we play through. When you build a canal section, this boat will come back to the board to show you that you can only do that once per round. And then at the end of the round, the boat would come back to the next available card, so you can do the same thing in a following round. The other thing you can do is we can fight barbarians. And the way that works is this. In order to fight off a barbarian, we need to pay whatever it shows up here in the top left corner. And if we do that, the barbarian goes away and we receive whatever it shows here on this banner. So example, in this case, we'd get 1 shell and 1 laborer. And this down here at the bottom is what's going to happen at the end of the round if that barbarian is still at the top of the board. It means if I do not fight off this barbarian, I will either have to pay 1 brick or I will have to discard one of my ready cards back into the main supply. So if we don't fight off these barbarians, we're going to have to deal with some repercussions along the way. And again, if it ever gets to 7 cards full of barbarians at the top, we instantly lose the game. So we need to make sure that we're fighting them off so they don't pile up as well. So after we're done our actions, again, we're going to check the barbarian bottom of the card and either pay what it asks for or suffer the discard cost. And then we will refresh the row. And the way that we're going to refresh the row is we're going to look at the top of the board. Here you see 1 red card. That means 1 barbarian will be added to this display every round. As we start moving some of these canal cards, every other canal card is going to add 1 more of those. So if I had built these first 2, that means at the start of every round, at the end of every round, we're going to be adding 2 barbarians. And if we get to here, 3 barbarians, and finally when we get to here, we'll be adding 4 barbarians at the end of a round. And it's worth mentioning that that does happen at the end of the round because when we build this final card, that's the end of the game victory condition, but we still need to survive that 4 new barbarians added here. So if I already had 3 barbarians up here and I cleared that and ended the game, we would actually lose because we're adding 4 more barbarians, and that would make it a total of 7. The other way we can lose the game I mentioned is when the flood hits the barge. And the way that happens is when we are out of cards here and we need to shuffle our exhausted pile to form a new ready pile, when we shuffle, the flood will move forward 1 space. And if the flood ever hits a card, we instantly lose the game. But if the flood moves into an empty space like that, it's no problem. So we need to make sure that we're building these sections before the flood gets to them. And now that's pretty much it for the game. So let's go ahead and get into playthrough, and hopefully if you have any confusion or any questions, those get answered as we get into play. All right, so we're going to take a look at the cards in my hand, and I see we've got 2 provisions here, a provision in a shell, a provision in a shell, and 1 yellow laborer. Now, I need to focus on this because we started with 10 cards, means 4 here, 1, 2, 3, 4, we survive one more round, but then I only have 2, which means I'm going to need to shuffle and that's going to move. So I only have 2 rounds to build that first section or we will instantly lose. So that's important to pay attention to. Also, this barbarian is going to take a yellow, yellow, blue, and a brick, or I have to discard something. I also want to make sure that I'm adding new things to my hand so that this is getting thicker so we hold off the flood for longer. But I don't want to discard any cards for the red ability yet because it's too early and I, again, don't want to thin out my hand. So I'm just going to play these 4 cards carefully because, yes, let's do this. All right, I'm going to play this for 2 provisions. And this one I'm going to hold on to for a second. And this one I'm going to hold on to a second. And I'm going to play this one for 1 yellow worker. One more thing I didn't mention and I need to mention is how this bottom of the board works. Bottom of the board, we've got 2 things that are happening. We've got all of these buildings that can be built. And at any time we can basically pay what it shows underneath that building. So for a farm, we need a laborer, a brick, and 1 wood. For an outpost, we need a laborer, a brick, 3 wood. And for a hut, we need a laborer, 3 brick, and 1 wood. And we can build that building. But we can only build that building if there are available spaces for the building to be built. And every time we open a new section of the canal, we will have more of those places to place buildings. The farms are going to unlock new things that we get during the harvest phase of the round. And again, anywhere we place a building to build, we will instantly get whatever is printed on the board on that location. So if I did that, next round I will get an additional white worker during harvest, and I would immediately get 1 provision for building that building. And this is going to get me an additional worker at harvest, an additional provision at harvest, and an additional non-white worker of my choice at harvest. The outpost buildings are not going to get me anything, but instead they're going to start making other colors wild. So if I build this building, that means whites and reds can be spent interchangeably. So red could be white or white can be red. And as we keep doing that, for example, here's blue. Now blue, red, and white could be spent interchangeably. So if I need a blue, I can spend a red or a white in its place. If I need a red, I could spend a white or a blue in its place, and so on. So that's going to sort of be making our meeple supply more flexible as to how they can be spent to do different things. And then finally, the huts. When we build a hut, on the back of this card, and I'm not going to show it to you yet because I don't want to spoil it for me, there's going to be some kind of reward for building the hut. We will then also unlock these worker placement spaces, which I'll talk about in just a minute, but we will also open up another slot at the bottom of the board that we can slide in another card. So these are worker placement spaces, and any of the workers that I have can be placed there to immediately gain whatever the benefit is. So here would be 1 provision for placing. Here means I can select any non-white worker from the supply. All right, so now that I've explained that, let's get back into the game. And the reason I wanted to talk about that right now is 2 things. Because I want to slot somebody under the board, but also I want to make use of that provision space just so we don't lose a worker, because anything we place on a worker placement spot will come back to us during the harvest phase in the next round. So it's a good way to get stuff without losing our workers. I don't have any way to get 2 yellows and a blue to fight off this barbarian, so I'm going to have to take the hit. And the biggest problem is I am not going to be able to afford a brick unless I use both of these cards as regular cards and then spend all of my shells to block that. I'd rather lose 1 card, and the reason that is I am going to slot under the board this worker here. So from now on, at the start of every round, I will be getting 1 brick and 1 more shell. And the reason I do that is because bricks are going to be really useful for building buildings, and those will be really useful to help us in future. Also, some of these cards will require bricks, so that will make sure I always have 1 brick every round. Then I will play this card for 1 more provision and 1 more shell. Now, we don't have enough laborers to build this section of the canal yet. So we will have to wait for the next round to do that and make sure that we do that next round, or we instantly lose the game already. There's nothing I can do about the barbarian right now, so I don't care about any of my other resources. So I am going to place here to get one more provision. And then we're going to start adding cards to my hand. So this one is free. And I'm going to spend 2 provisions to move each of these 2 cards, each of which cost 1 provision, down here into my exhausted pile as well. I could do the same here, but 2 provisions is pretty expensive. And I do want to save provisions because when we attack barbarians, we will also need to spend those provisions. So I want to make sure I have some available for me to fight things off later. All right, then. There's nothing else for me to do because there's nothing else that I can pay for or use. So we suffer attacks. So this barbarian is going to hit me. I don't have any bricks, so this card gets discarded up here. These all slide down to the left. The barbarian is going to move 1 space because remember we need to add 1 new barbarian here. And then we fill in the rest of the spaces with new townsfolk. And that's the end of the first round, so we move into the second round into harvest phase again. We are drawing 1, 2, 3, 4 cards to my hand. And then we are harvesting. So I'm going to get 1 laborer, 1 shell, and 1 provision from this section of the board. This laborer comes back to me. And we get 1 brick and 1 shell from the bottom there. And I semi-regret that just because looking at my hand this round, I have lots of brick coming out again. Now, the chances of me fighting these 2 right now are pretty low, as I don't have a whole lot of workers left. And getting those colors is tricky because looking at my hand, I got a lot of wood and brick with 1 white guy. I need to make sure that canal is done. If I have a brick and a provision, I can hold them off without getting hurt though. So we're okay. And remember, the second barbarian card doesn't get added until I build the second piece of the canal. So I'm just going to use these 4 cards for what they're good for. So 2 brick, 1 laborer, and 1 wood. And then, right away, go ahead and spend 2 laborers and 2 shells to take care of this first canal space. So this boat comes off the board. We are going to get 1 brick, 1 wood, and we have to discard 1 card. That card goes back into the box. I get a brick and a wood. And I have to discard this card up here. Now, the wave doesn't move until we need to shuffle, so right now we're good because nothing's happening. Then, I'm not going to be able to fight them off. I would like to have some more available stuff. So I am going to use this worker to build something. I can't build any of these, but I do have enough brick to build a hut, or I can build one of these farms. And farms gets me stuff for free during harvest. This hut, though, I know also unlocks that worker placement spot that gets me a worker. But yeah, I'm going to go for a farm because it's cheap for right now. So I'm going to take this laborer, 1 wood and 1 brick. And we will do the any colored non-white worker, and I'll place here, which gets me a provision right away. Now, yeah, actually I'm going to be a little bit different this turn. I'm actually going to build this hut too, and I'm going to do it by this. I'm going to take this card, which is going to get me a laborer by placing it here. And then I'll use that laborer, 3 bricks and 1 wood, to build this hut here, which gets me 1 shell back. And we flip over this card and we see for this hut, we get 1 provision. So I'll put this card back into the box and I will take 1 provision. I will then place this yellow worker here, take another yellow worker for placing that. And then I'm going to place that yellow worker here to take 1 provision. I know that I have a provision that I can spend to block him. This one needs a brick, but 3 shells from this space can also equal a brick, so I'm okay there. I will spend 2 provisions again to take these first 2 cards back into my hand. We do have a lot of provisions, but I'm going to hold off for now. So I have to spend these 3 shells as a brick to block her. And I have to spend 1 provision to block him. That's the end of the round. These cards slide down. These need to move so that we can place enough new barbarians, which in this case is still just 1. We fill in the rest of those spots. The barge comes back to the next card, and we move into the next harvest phase. Now, you'll see here in the harvest phase, I will get these 2 workers back. But now, in order to take my 4 cards, I'm going to need to shuffle this deck of cards, which means this wave flood moves forward 1 space. So then we take our 4 cards, flip that over, and I get to now take 1 worker of any color. I can see that I've got a white and a blue in my hand. I can see that I've got a white and a blue up there. So I'm going to focus on these 2, and I think I'm going to aim for, hold on. I'm worried about this red worker. If I don't fight her off, I need a red worker to keep her from attacking, and I don't have any, but I can always get one from this spot. So let's hold off. I'm going to take a black worker. No, I'm going to take a yellow worker because there's a chance to get another blue, and if I got another yellow there, I could always fight her off. Yes. Okay, then I get a white worker, a shell, and a provision from there. And a brick and a shell from there. So I know now that this brick will keep me protected from her, but I think I'm going to fight her off anyway. This provision will fight him or protect me from him if I don't get him fought off. She's the one I really want to fight off because I get a red, or because I need a red worker to block her. But I want her first because I get an extra white laborer if I beat her off. So, do I want to tuck anything? I still have 1 spot there. I don't really need a brick this round. And I wouldn't mind getting an automatic blue every round moving forward. Yeah, I'm going to tuck him under there because I don't need that brick for right this second. So I'm just going to play these as normal to take 1 white, 1 blue, and 1 wood. And then we'll start by playing yellow, yellow, blue, and paying 2 provisions to fight off this barbarian, which again is going to get us 1 white shell and 1 white laborer. So I get the shell and a laborer. Now, again, I don't care too much about him. I'd like to fight her off. I have that yellow. I'm actually going to pay a provision to get rid of this guy over here so I get 1 more blue worker. And then I can place 1 white here to take a yellow worker. Now, yellow, yellow, blue, I have 2 provisions. I have 3 shells. I can always use 2 shells as a provision from this space. I can also activate this space to get a provision. So either way, I'm okay. Yeah, let's do that. So I've got 1 provision from this space, 2, 3. Yellow, yellow, blue. We'll take out her, which gets me 2 shells and a wood. And 2 shells. Now I do want to take this card into my hand for free. How are we doing on cards here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's exactly 2 more rounds before this moves, so long as I don't lose any cards to those guys. All right. You can't build anything because I don't have any more building spots until I open that canal space. So I'm just going to spend 2 shells as a provision to take 1 more card into my hand. That's it for the round. I'll spend 2 shells as a provision to keep this guy from attacking me. This slides down. He stays where he is because we only need to add 1 more. And then we fill in the townsfolk spots like that. And we move on to the next round. So I'm going to take 1, 2, 3, 4 cards. I don't like that I'm not getting a lot of workers in my cards. These come back to me. Yeah, I need to focus on building this so I can get that wild worker and so I can build something else. Hopefully one of these colors that'll play off that blue, but we'll see how that works out. I can choose anything I want, and I know I'm getting a blue, so I want to get a black, a white, a shell, and a provision. A brick and a shell, and then 1 blue spearman. All right, then there's not a whole lot I can do here. I'm not going to be tucking anything, so I am just going to play these as is. Means I got 1, 2, 3, 4 provision, 2 shells, and a brick. 4 provisions, a brick, and 2 shells. All right. Then we start doing things. I am, again, prioritizing this because we need to. So I'm going to move that barge off the board. 2 laborers, 2 shells. Is going to unlock 1 more canal, which is going to be a bit of a problem because we are going to have another worker or another barbarian coming out, but that's fine. A brick, a wood, and I have to trash 1 card. So there's my brick and wood. And 1 card goes away, which is sad now because the next round, the flood is moving, but that's okay because we emptied that spot up now. Then I'm going to build. I want my blue to be wild, or wilder for now. So 1 brick, a white, and 3 wood is going to let me take the, well, any building, but I'm going to use the outpost that gets blue as wild, placing that there to take a black worker. Then I've got black, black, blue. To fight this guy, I need 3 provisions. 1, 2, 3. He goes away, which gets me a shell and a laborer. I'm going to place him there to get a blue one, and the reason is I need blue to prevent that guy from attacking. So that's just a defense spot. And I will place that there to get 1 more provision. We're going to spend 2 provisions. Again, take these first 3 cards into my hand. He attacks. I block with my spearman. These slide down. He moves twice now because we unlocked this, so 2 barbarians get added now. And then we fill in these other spots. We're going to draw our harvest cards, 4 cards, there's 3. And now we shuffle for the 4th, means this flood moves up. That's my 4th card. We should have placed the barge back here. Now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, with 3 extra cards. I've got 3 rounds to prevent that from hitting me, or means I have to build this in the next 3 rounds. But the nice thing is this doesn't add any barbarians, so that's not a huge problem. All right, I see I've got a black one coming out. These come back to me. I've got a black one coming out, so I'm closer to fighting that. So I'm going to aim for another black or yellow. Let's take another black one for now. Then we get white shell and provision. Plus now, because we built this outpost, we get 1 more shell. Then down here, a brick, a shell, and a blue worker. All right, now I want to fight some people off. This is going to require a black one, which is going to hurt me unless I can fight it. Yeah, these both take workers, and I'm not going to be able to hit them both, I think. A brick is no problem for me to block. All right, so I'm just going to play these for what they are. Hold on, let me see this. I need to. Blue is here, black is here. I got another black one coming. I don't have a yellow unless I play here. I don't have a ton of provisions this time either. All right, so I'm going to aim for him. So again, we're going to play that for black. And then I get 2 provisions, 2 shells, and a wood. And now we got to fight some stuff. So I'm going to place, no, I want to save white for now. Place this blue here to get a yellow. Black, black, yellow, and 2 provisions. He is going to fight this barbarian off, which gets me 2 shells and a brick. Now, I might actually have to focus on this right now. It's going to stink because I'm going to have to get rid of some cards there. That one's not going to be able to be blocked, so I'm going to lose 3 cards if I go there. But I had 3 extras and still 2 more rounds, but this is clear anyway, so then I have additional rounds to get here. So that's not a problem at all. Yeah, let's do that. All right, so we're going to play these 3 workers and 2 shells to move that off the board. Taking this, which is going to get me a brick, a wood, and kill 2 cards this time, unfortunately. One, 2. But now I have the ability to make any white into any color that's not white by spending a provision with it, which is nice. And now I also have the ability to build 1 more building, which is very helpful. It's not a bad thing to do right now, truthfully. I got cards. All right, I'm going to use this for free over here, which gets me a white worker. And I'm going to use that white worker with a brick and a wood. This could be useful because I can tuck as well. And there might be something really nice on the back of that. Yeah, let's do that. I'm going to spend 3 brick and a wood with my worker to build this hut here, which gets me 1 provision. And we flip that over, and that's the worst one there is, a single shell. All right, so we take the shell. I don't have any cards to tuck because I've already spent all my cards this round, but that's okay. I will spend 2 provisions to take the next 2 cards into my hand. And that's pretty much all I can do this round. I don't have any way to block him, so I'm going to have to lose 1 more card. I have to pay a brick to block him. Barge comes back. He slides down. They move down 2 because I need to add 2 more barbarians. 1, 2. These fill in here. 1, 2. And we move into the next round. All right, so we're drawing 4 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks like a lot of resources and not a whole lot of people this time, which is going to hurt us a little bit. We get this blue one back. Now, I know that I have 2 movements of the flood before it hurts me, so I don't care about this at all right now because this is also going to add 1 more barbarian, which I really don't want to happen. So we're going to focus on trying to wipe out some barbarians over the next couple of rounds. I can see that I've got a blue already. I've got another blue coming. This one's going to give me white, and it doesn't take a lot of provision. So for my wild, I'm going to take a red. A white, 2 shells, and a provision. It's worth noting that all of the shells in the game now are out on the table, so anytime I take shells, I'm going to start trading things in for provisions or wood or brick based on these exchanges. I also get a brick and a shell. Again, right now I can't take another shell, so I will return 2 shells to take a provision, and then I'll take that one shell I'm supposed to be getting with the brick. And then we get a blue. I forgot this white worker here. And that's it for right now. So blue, blue, red, and 2 provisions. We'll get rid of that one right there, which gets me a shell and another white guy. Then, let's see, what do I have in my cards? I got a lot of building materials and a lot of provisions, which I don't care. And even all of the tucks. This is not a great hand because all of the tucks are giving me resources, and I would really love to get more workers. This one's interesting because this would get me an extra card draw every turn, but the problem is that then if I don't make sure I have a lot of cards in my ready pile, this is going to actually race the end of the game real quick, and it could end up hurting me worse than saving me. So I'm going to do some stuff this time. I can't build any buildings until I get rid of that, which is a problem. All right, I need to get rid of people. So I'm going to use this red here to take a red. I can use white as blue. So there's blue, blue, red right there. That said, I want to make sure I'm generating new people, so I'm going to place that there to take a real blue. Blue, blue, red, and 1 provision. We'll use 4 shells to 3 provisions to get rid of this guy here, which gets me 2 shells back and a wood. I need 2 bricks to block them, which I have plenty of. The truth is, I'd like to get some more workers. Red, red, yellow. I could get a red and a yellow there, which takes 2 provisions. 2 provisions for red and yellow. I can get a white from one of my cards, which would mean 2 provisions to change it into another color, and then another 2 provisions to fight that. Yeah, wow. All right, we can do this. All right, so we're using 4 shells as 2 provisions to take these 2 cards and not collect them, but put them here instead. And I don't know if that's smart. I may be hurting myself doing this, but I want to clear out some of these barbarians. So I got a red and a yellow for doing that. Then I'm going to, I got a lot of brick. I'm going to trash this card to get a brick and a white worker. And then I'm going to spend 2 shells with that white worker as a provision to make that into a red. And then we need 2 provisions, so that means 4 more shells. Like that. To get rid of this guy, which gets me 3 new shells. I still have these cards, so I'm going to spend them. 2 provisions, a shell, and a wood. Hold on, can I tuck something? No, I don't want to tuck those. 2 provisions, a shell, and a wood. And that's pretty much all I can do because the board is empty now. I got to pay a brick to block him. He slides down twice. I fill in those holes like that and that. These fill in here. And this gets shuffled to add more. 3, 4. I like those. We got a lot of workers coming out, which is nice. Then we have to take 4 cards in our own hand. There's 4 cards right there, which is fine. And we get this guy back. One of my choice, any color. Now, I don't have any colors at all right now. I know I'm getting blue, so red might be nice so I can fight that guy right there. Red might also be nice here because I could get an extra card for fighting him, but we'll see what happens. A white, 2 shells, and a provision. And a brick and a shell. And 1 blue. All right, so there's my red, blue. Could get a red from this card. I could get a red from playing that there. I also want to work on this. I know it's not a good idea, but I want to get it done. Yeah, so I'm going to place this white one here to get a red. Red, red, blue. and 3 provisions. 1, 2, 3. Is going to at least get rid of that one, which gets me 2 shells and a brick. I do need to start working on getting this canal done. Ooh, I like this. This is a brick card, but it's got a yellow worker down here. And I don't need a ton of brick because I'm getting brick every round. So I'm actually going to tuck that one so we get more yellow workers coming out soon. And I'll just play the rest as is, I think. Yeah, we're going to have to start fighting some barbarians soon, but that's okay. Yeah, all right, so we're going to play white, white, wood. But that's black and red, too. There's a red there. No, I need a black. Never mind. That's fine. All right, so we're going to play white, white, wood right there. And I'm going to take this one for free, at least. We'll talk about the others in a minute when we see what else we have. I am going to do this canal section. It's going to hurt because I got more barbarians coming now. But we got to ramp things up or we'll never get to the end. We get from this a brick, a wood, and we have to kill 2 cards. A brick and a wood, and we have to kill 2 cards. Now, in order to kill 2 cards, I do have to shuffle, which means this moves forward on, but we got plenty of space for the canal. So I don't really care too much about that. And now we've got 2 new spaces to build on, which is great. And this card gets trashed. Now, for these 2, I need a brick and a wood. So we'll set those aside. At this point, I can now spend 4 shells to get a white worker. Which means I could build one more something. Which might be a really good idea right now. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Let's do that. I'm going to spend 4 shells to get 1 white. And I'm going to spend 1 brick and 1 wood to buy 1 more farm, which we'll place there to get a red worker. And that means from now on I get an additional white worker during harvest. And I'm going to place that red worker here to get the provision because might as well. And I don't need the provisions right now. So yes, I'm going to spend 2 shells and 1 provision to take these 2 cards into my hand. We have to pay that brick and a wood, which I set over here to do. He slides over. Now we got to add 3 new barbarians, which is not a good thing, but we got it coming. We're fine. 1, 2, 3. We fill in here. Barge comes back. And we start the next round. So harvest phase, we're going to take 4 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4. I see a lot of black workers coming out, which means I'm looking at yellow and red. I've already got a red coming. I've already got a yellow coming. So let's see, yellow or red. This one gets me another card. So let's take yellow as my wild. I get 2 white workers. I get 2 shells and a provision. A brick and a provision. And a blue worker and a yellow worker. Okay, then I don't have a lot of provisions, which is not great. I do get a provision here if I play that. 1 provision, 1 shell. So I'm going to spend those 2 provisions. Yeah, let's do that. I was aiming here, but this is easier. Blue, blue, yellow, because white counts as blue based on this. So blue, blue, yellow. And then I have to spend the 2 provisions that are in my hand to get rid of that card, which takes a shell and 1 more card to my hand. Ooh, that's lots of provisions. I like that. All right, so we get 2 more provisions from that card. 1, 2. Yellow, yellow, red, or yellow, yellow, black. Yellow, yellow, black gets me another card. So let's play 1 of these for black. I'm going to play 1 white here to get a yellow. Yellow, yellow, black. No, hold on. instead of doing that, I'm going to use this white worker with a brick and 3 wood. That might hurt me because I need a wood here, but we'll see what happens. Oh, I got a wood coming anyway. We're good. Because now I can place out this yellow here. Gets me a black, but now also whites are yellow. Oops, I don't have that yellow anymore because I didn't play there. Okay, but yellow, yellow, black using the white piece. And 3 provisions. 1, 2, and 2 shells. Gets me this card gone, which is a shell, and another card. More provision. All right, I'm just going to play these. I got a provision, a black, and a wood. Now, I need 2 yellows and a red to get that. Oh, watch this. Play 1 black there to get a yellow. Right? Then we play this card off the thing to get a white. And whites count as yellow. So that's... Wait, why did I play that to get a black? Oh no, I played that to get a yellow, right? I need a red, not a yellow. Wait, hold on. I played that to get a yellow. I'm going to play that to get a red. Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong place. Black, black, red. I like this one better. So let's say I played that white to get the yellow instead. No, I couldn't have. Black, black, red isn't going to happen. Well, it could. Yeah, let's do this. I spend this provision to do this to get a black. Black, black, and this with 2 shells makes a red. And then 2 more shells is my provision. So that's black, black, red. And all the provisions I need to kill that one off right there, which gets me a shell and 1 more card, which is a pretty useless wood, but I have my wood and I have my yellow to block those 2, so I'm okay. Yeah, and this red is just going to go here and get a provision. And this, I don't care. It's just going to get me a wood. Then we have to spend a wood and a yellow to block those 2. And that's the end of the round. They slide here because we need 3 new barbarians. And you'll see these 2 barbarians are going to trigger story events when we fight them off. And we fill in 1, 2. All right, so moving into the next round, we get to take 4 new cards. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I get 1 white worker here, 1 white worker here, so 2 whites. Oh, sorry, these come back. And let's see, yellow and blue are wild, so that's great. I need reds and blacks here, here, here. Go 1 red, 1 black. I could have 1 red coming out of here. Let's take a black worker. Hold on. Yeah, no, we only need 1 black for the cheaper ones. Let's go red. We can change things later if we need to, because I can get a black from this wood card as well. Then I get 1, 2, 3 shells and 1 provision from there. I get a brick and a provision from this card. And then a blue and a yellow. Then, yeah, I'm going to start by doing this red, red, black, because it's going to get me an extra white worker. All right, so red, red, black, and 2 provisions for that one. Kills this barbarian, gets 1 shell, and 1 more white worker. Then, black is going to be useful to have. Blue, blue, black, I could take that one out. I need to get rid of 2 more or they're going to grow. And I don't know if I can do that. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 workers right now. Well, let's do this. I can easily get a black worker there. So we've got blue, blue, black. And I need 2 provisions from that. One of which I can get from this card. I play that for a provision and a shell. So I'll spend this provision and 2 shells with those 3 workers to get rid of that card, which is 3 shells. 1, 2, 3. Then black, black, yellow. I've got white and yellow. I could get a black here if I wanted to. Yellow, yellow, red. That's actually yellow, yellow. Yeah, I'm going to actually do that, I think. I'm going to trash this card for a white and a red. Because now I do have that yellow, yellow, red. And just 1 provision is 2 shells. So we'll do that to get rid of this one. Gets me 3 more shells. Now over here I need a white worker and a provision. Let's put these here. I got a blue and a wood. I do want to work on moving this soon, but I don't have the kind of workers that I need for that right now. And this blue can get me a provision. And I will spend that provision to take this card and also this one for free into my hand. Yeah, I want to free this one up because if I can free this one up, I can build more stuff, which will let me make something else wild and start helping with those blacks and reds. So we'll stop right there. I have to spend 2 shells for that provision. 1 white worker there. Blocks both of them. They're going to slide down to make room for some new barbarians. 1, 2, and 3. I fill in those 2 holes here. 1, 2. And we start the next round drawing 4 cards. I don't have enough cards, so this moves up. We're going to shuffle. 1, 2, 3, 4. White, blue, and black are coming out. I already have this white and blue. All of those can be yellow. Blacks and reds are my problem, and we've got lots of blacks and reds showing, so that's not great. So I'm definitely taking a black as one of those. Randoms, I get 2 white. And then I get 1, 2, 3 shells and a provision from there again. And I get a brick and a shell from there. That's all of our shells are out again. And then from my card I get blue and yellow. All right, well, good news is this. I can play this card to get black. So there's black, black, yellow, and 1 provision is going to get you your first story card. This says number 22. So we're going to go to the storybook and we're going to consult number 22. And it says, "The cheers of victory were still ringing in our ears when a hush fell over the battlefield. The fight appeared to be over, but then something stirred in the dust and blood. A brute of a man who had fought to overcome our forces, blood streaming down his side, was rising. Staggering to his feet, his sword still in hand, he turned back towards our men, lifted his head, and tightened the grip on his hilt, ready for more." So it tells us to file this defeated barbarian card in the history section on the box. And then it tells me to find card 36 in the story deck and place it face up into the space where that defeated barbarian was sitting. Which is very not cool because it means we get another barbarian back where we thought we had just killed one. So I pull that card out and we put it out here, and look at that, more black. Great. And this one you can see has nothing that we can do to bribe them off. We can't defend. They're always going to destroy a card as long as they are there. So we definitely want to target them again this round. That said, I would really love to get this built to start helping me out with some stuff. But, yeah, first things first, I'm going to place one of these white to get a black worker. Black and yellow, doesn't matter, these are all yellow. Black and yellow with one, or two shells in this case as one provision, is going to remove him again, which means we go back to the storybook and read number 32. It says, "A shout of triumph, cheers of victory. The enemy was falling back, their champion finally falling to our own brave fighters. We thought he would never go down again, but this time he wasn't getting back up. We made sure of it." So again, we put this barbarian card into history, and now this time we get one wood, one clay, and two shells. All right, then I'm just going to go ahead and play these other three cards for a white, a blue, and a wood. And now let's see what we can do. I really, really, really want to do that, and I can afford to do that right now, but if I do that right now, 3 more barbarians come out next round, and, well, we lose because we need to have less than 7 at all times. So let's focus on killing 2 more barbarians. I've got blue, blue, black. Well, blue, blue is there, black, and I can spend a provision. But then I need to spend 3 more provisions. That's expensive. But reds and blacks, I don't have any. What I really need to do is open that so I can get a red and a black here, but that's gonna take way too much time currently. All right, so we have to do this. Blue, blue, white with a provision, or 2 shells in this case, is black. And then we've got to spend 3, 1, 2, 3 provisions, or 6 shells. Gets rid of that card right there, and gets me 3 shells back again. Let's see here. I've got 2 more white left, but nothing is of the right color to help me right now. I can get more yellow and white if I want to, which means I could change them all to the appropriate colors, but if that's black with 2, and that's black with 2, I can get that to make it a blue. We're 1 shell short of that. Well, yeah, we're going to have to do this. I'm going to actually use this card not just for wood, but we're going to get rid of it so I have 1 more worker, because then I can put them there as a provision. I can trash this to here to get a yellow. So there's my blue. That's a black, white with 2 shells. Another white with 2 shells is another black. So we need 1 provision, and a second provision is these shells. This all gets paid in. That's black, black, blue, which gets me this one right here. I have white and a shell. Now that's going to be the end of the round, but unfortunately this white goes away, bribing her. I don't have a yellow left, so we are losing 1 more card. But I am going to spend these 2 shells to move this into my hand, or a deck. They slide down because we do have to add 3 more. 1, 2, and 3. Adding 2 more here. Yeah, this is getting not great, guys. Lots of black and red. I really need to work on this, which means I really need to take care of that. But let's see what we can do. All right, next round. 4 new cards. 1, 2, 3, 4. Flips over. Again, not a whole lot of stuff. These whites come back. Yeah. All right, I'm going to take a black for my wild. I get 2 new whites. I get 3 shells and a provision for this one. Get a brick. Yeah, I don't need these bricks. I wish I could trade them in for something, but that doesn't come until way down here. And then a blue and a yellow. All right, I am going to, and I have to, if it fails me, if I lose because of this, so be it. But blue, black, white, white goes in with 3 shells to take this off the board, pull this off. So I instantly lose 2 of these, and we get another story moment. Story card 44. So let's take a look at the book. 44 says, a commotion drew our attention over to the river today. Shouts and crashing sounds bellowed from the forest. As we watched and listened, a resounding roar echoed out through the valley. My people flinched back from the shore, even though we were across the surging waters. A second yell preceded a figure breaking from the tree line and running for the river. It was a short-lived attempt at escape, for moments later the source of his dismay came crashing from the forest. A huge bear, blue and brown in the fading light, arrows protruding from its fur. The man was running as if spurred on by his ancestors, but the bear was faster. I'm not sure what barbarians did to anger the creature, but it was clearly unhappy about it. Once we are sure the animal is gone, we will send some men to bury what is left of the man. No one should be left like that. So we're going to file the constructed canal card in history. We're going to find card 54 and put it into the Hudson Canal section for use in later games. And then we got super lucky, kind of. We're going to miss out on the story, but the story might have been bad. We're discarding the leftmost barbarian card above the board. So I killed somebody without having to spend the meeples. I don't get what comes from it, but that's great in terms of progressing where we need to progress. And we are going to add that card 54 into the setup for future games. All right, then we keep pushing forward. We now have 2 new spaces to build. We now have the ability to spend 2 provisions and 2 shells to get a card from up here instead of from our own hand, which is pretty cool. All right, I am going to throw these cards in first. So I get 2 provisions, 2 shell, and a blue worker. And we'll figure out what to do with the next card next, because I don't want to use it yet, because I might need that black worker. But before I do anything, I want to use a white worker, 3 wood, and a brick. And I want to aim for, let's see, we need 3 red, we need 5 black. So let's aim for black. And then I will get a free blue worker, which now can also be used as black, which is great. I don't have any reds, but I can get them fairly easily. So I'm going to put this white worker here and take a red. Black, black, red, or blue, blue, red. I can do either of those. This one takes a brick and this one takes a black, but that gets me a worker and that gets me a card. Yeah, but I don't want to rush the cards, so we're actually going to aim for that. Blue, blue, red, and I need 3 provisions, which we have, to get rid of that, which gets me a shell and a white worker. Now, I can trash this card to get a wood and a black worker. I could go after that, but that takes a lot of resources. Let me see here. I've got black, black, red, or red, red, black. In either case, this one's impossible. I could take out that one, then I need a yellow and a blue. I'm going to try for that. I've got the black, black, yellow, but unfortunately I only have 2 provisions worth, but I can simply discard that for 2 provisions. So I've got 1, 2, and a 3rd provision from 2 shells. Black, black, yellow. This guy goes away. This gets me 2 more shells and a brick. I really don't need all these bricks anymore, but that's fine. 2 shells and a brick. There's nothing else I can do except I will use 2 shells to take this card because I want to make sure I'm not running out of stuff in my hand. I need to pay a brick and a yellow worker. I don't have a yellow worker and I don't have 4 shells to buy a new one, so I will have to lose 1 card here. They slide down 1 more to give me 3 new barbarians. And we fill in these 2 slots like this. And then we move on to the next round, drawing 4 cards. I only have 3 though, so we're going to have to move the wave forward 1. Boat should come back there. My hand's getting real low, which is a problem, because I've been using a lot of those and I've been discarding a lot. That's 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I've only got 2 rounds left before this moves there, and that's a big problem. In order to win, I need to kill enough barbarians that there are only 2 left and trigger this in the same round so that it ends up with 6 and I'm okay. So let's see what we can do. Right now I only have this white worker. Everything but red is free for me, so I'm going to take a red because there's quite a bit of red out there. Then, aha, look at this. I know that the next time this wave moves, I lose. So all of the cards I'm playing now are going to be trashed for the full reward rather than playing here. Yes. All right, so I took that red. I get 2 white to come out. Then I get 1, 2, 3, 4 shells and a provision. A brick and a provision. No, a brick and a shell, sorry. And then a blue worker and a yellow. And again, there's no reason to add anything to my hand anymore because next time I shuffle, this moves and it's going to be game over. So, yeah, this gets me a red worker automatically. This one, we'll see. I don't think I need the brick, and that's all it's good for right now. And there's no reason to tuck because I'm not going to, at most I have 1 more round. All right, so we've got 3 provisions. I'm just going all out. Let's see what we can do. 1, 2, 3 provisions, and then spending this, I get 1, 2, 3, 4 blue workers, a wood, and a card. 4 blue workers, 1 wood, and 1 card, which we're going to trash for a black and a provision. And now we got to see what we can do. I don't think we're going 1 more round, but 1, 2, 3, 4. If we're going 1 more round, I can get away with killing 2 cards. Well, in either case, I can get away with killing 2 cards. So I need to kill 3 barbarians and this. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I'm 1 worker short of that, but I can always use shells, and these will get me workers and cards. I think we're okay. And reds are the ones that are a problem right now, but we can always build something to get another worker. Yeah, let's start there. Because using 1 worker to get another worker is not going to be a problem. And I can even make reds wild, or I can hope to get something cool there. I don't know. Do we care about reds wild? No, I don't, because I've got enough for that. We can always get 1, and that can be the one that I don't touch. All right, so I'm going to use 3 brick, 1 wood, and 1 white worker to build this extra hut. That goes here to get me another yellow. We flip that. Oh, and look at that. We get another card draw, which I'm going to immediately get rid of for 1 white worker and a provision. And let's see what we can do. All right, so we're going to do red, red, black with 1 provision to do that, which gets me a shell and a white worker. Then I'll place a white one there to get a red. And then black, black, red, it doesn't matter which color I'm using because they're all wild except for red, black, black, red, and 2 provisions. Gets me this guy for a shell and a card. And again, I don't care because we're at the end of the game, so I get a yellow and a white worker back from that one. Then yellow, yellow, blue, and 2 provisions. Gets me that one. which gets me 2 shells and a wood. Okay. Then let's aim here. I need a red. But remember, white with a provision or white with 2 shells, which is the same thing as a provision, changes color to a red, blue, white, white. And 3 shells. 1, 2, 3 shells. Gets me this last one. I have to kill 2 cards. 1, 2, which is fine. And we're going to read story 24, which says, I had been waiting hours for my workers to return from finishing our most recent canal, when a shout came up from the edge of the tents. The workers had returned, but they were bloodied and tired. Barbarians had been roaming nearer and nearer to our camps, scouting for ways they could hurt our efforts. It seems like they found what they were looking for. So I put the construction card into history. I find 34 and file that for future games, and I take 1 damage, which is going to be fine because we still have 2 cards, so that goes there. And we file that card for future games. All right, then, yeah, we've basically won the game already because 4 are going to come out, but let's see how much damage we can do. I've got yellow, yellow, blue, and 1, 2, 3 provisions is going to kill her, which gets me 1 more shell and 1 more white worker. Now, there's nothing else that I can do that's going to get me enough workers there. Even if I got another card, it's not going to matter. So we're just going to end there. We pay 1 brick to prevent his attack. He slides there. We fill in 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we would fill in that. But like that, we've completed all of the canal sections. The flood never hit our boat. We do not have 7 barbarians on the board, so we have won the game. Now, when you win the game, you do take the top victory card. You look at the back, and the back of the victory card is just going to give you a story number to read in the storybook. I'm not going to do that right now because I don't want to ruin any of the big things that happen in the campaign. So we're going to end right there. Now, normally what I like to do at the end of these videos is take a look at the components. Now, this is a prototype copy of the game as a preview for the Kickstarter, so some of this stuff is subject to change. But from what I can tell, everything looks very, very, very final edition. The only things that I know for sure are going to change is that you can see the difference sort of in color between these blue and yellow on here and these blue and yellow here. So I do know that the publisher is going to be working to make those colors closer to the colors on the card. But otherwise, everything pretty much is final pieces. I do love, as is always the case with these Garphill games, these very cool chunky wooden pieces, little pieces of wood, these little clay bricks. Everything looks great. See if we can get here. The boat and the water there look really, really cool. Very thematic, makes you really pulled into the game. The artwork here, I have to say I love this artwork. I'm going to say the first time I saw Circadian's First Light, which is the first Garphill game that had this artwork from Shem Phillips, I was a little bit turned off at first, right? I had gotten used to the Miko artwork and all of the other Garphill games, and I'm a big fan of the Miko's artwork. And well, I saw Shem Phillips' artwork on Circadians and wasn't really blown away by it. But I will say that every time I see a new game that's been drawn by Shem Phillips, I enjoy the artwork more and more and more. And I think what he's done here in this game looks amazing. You can see it on the table. This board is just really thematic and really pulls you into sort of the story and the world. All of the character designs here. My biggest complaint with Sam's art when I first saw it was his human characters, but these are really well drawn. Everything just looks really, really pretty. Again, with all Garphill games, The iconography on everything is super easy to understand. Yes, there's a lot of it. Yes, it might take a little bit of time to get into, especially if you've never played a Garphill game before. But assuming that you've played them before, they're very, very consistent with their iconography. Everything here is very easy to see at a quick glance. Makes a whole lot of sense once you've played a game. It looks great. Now, the last thing I do need to point out here, and again, this is a prototype copy, but this looks very, 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 very final edition. This game comes with an insert like this. And the insert itself is clear plastic, and printed on the inside of the box is a label or a picture that shows exactly what goes in every location in this box. The setup and takedown of this game is wonderful. This insert is very, very, very well designed. Now you can see there is a lot of plastic. These shells don't go super deep. It means there's a lot of space under the insert. It means there is a lot of empty space in this box, so it could be smaller. But it is already a smaller size box. If you've played Hadrian's Wall, you understand the size. This is one of the Garphill small size boxes. Their old games came that way as well. So it is a standard box size for them. You can't really hold it against them for keeping the box size the same, even if there is a lot of empty space in here. The insert, again, is very wonderfully created. All of the things slide in. As you unlock new setup cards for the game, they fit right in there. All of the stuff that you're getting pulled out of the game that were story triggers go into this history section. It's just really, really easy way to put the game away, take it out. Everything sets up and cleans up super quick. It's very easy to find. I leave this box next to me while I'm playing the game and simply take the components in and out of these wells. It just makes the game play and organize so quick and easy. I am a huge fan of what they've done here, and I hope to see this continue through more Garphill games moving forward. So with all that being said, that's pretty much all I have to say about the components. Meet me back up top and I'll let you know what I think about the game itself. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the playthrough. There were some tense moments in there. I hope you saw that you can sort of get an idea of how the game plays with you a little bit. And I also had some great sort of celebratory moments in there as well. So I hope that gave you a good look at sort of the ups and downs of a game session and how certain times can feel really tense and other times can be sort of big congratulatory or big, exciting wins. And we did pull it off at the end, so that was quite a bit of fun. And saying that, I should come out right now and just say, this game in general is quite a bit of fun. I really, really, really enjoy this one, and I'm very glad I was given the opportunity to take a look at this game. So let's start by talking about a little bit about what it is that I enjoy about this game. Well, basically the first big thing is that multi-use card system. This idea that I have a small number of cards available to me that I'm cycling through, and that when they run out, it's pushing forward that flood token. It's giving me this timer on the game, but it's a variable timer. It's a timer that I have some control over. And I really love this because the multi-use cards makes me sort of plan first, do I use this card to get its regular ability? Do I get rid of the card to get its regular ability and its upgraded ability? Do I tuck the card underneath my board to get sort of a continuous reward for that card moving forward in the game? And then the cards that I don't have that are up at the top in the Townsfolk deck, do I add them to my hand? Do I discard them to get the ability? There's all this thought about how I'm using each of the cards that are presented to me. And the way that these cards come out, right, it's shuffled, it's a random hand. The way that these cards come out is really going to change up my strategy and tactics every single game, because maybe sometimes I'm really, really resource rich in shells and provisions, and sometimes maybe I'm getting a ton of those meeples and I need to use those meeples in strategic ways to get more of the resources that I'm lacking. And that thought process and that balance of how to use all of the different cards is great. But even more so because, as I mentioned with the timer, as I cycle through that deck, that flood moves up. And if I'm not doing things fast enough, that flood ends the game. So I really need to pay attention not only to how am I using those cards, but how am I using those cards and when am I using those cards means I can sort of deal with, I need to fill my deck so that I have a longer time. But if I'm filling my deck to give myself a longer time, I'm not using those cards in the most advantageous or most effective way as far as the amount of resources and workers those cards are giving me that actually let me accomplish more things. So I really have to be constantly dealing with and balancing this idea of there's this timer, there's this thing behind me that's chasing me all the way through the game. And then there are all these things that I need to accomplish before that thing that's chasing me gets to me. And how do I do that? Do I rush through the game and try and get things done quickly so that I can have really powerful abilities? Or do I sort of hang back and sort of ride right on the edge of that timer and sort of build up as much stuff as I can and then sort of spring forward and then rush to get everything done at the end? This balance is really, really cool. And those barbarian cards that are in there, requiring different kinds of workers, giving me different kinds of rewards for defeating them, adds to this, right? Because now I have to think, well, I can hit that barbarian easily because I have the right meeples or the right workers to get that one. But if I push and I get a little bit more stuff, I can hit this other one. And if I hit this other one, I get better rewards that might then help me to also get the first one that I was aiming for that would have been easy already to get. So you really have to figure out, how do these things combo and how do I get things back for things that I spend, and how can I sort of build this? And then which barbarians can I let stay there because I can easily cover that sort of bribe or that defensive resource thing that I need to throw away to prevent them from causing any damage to me. So there's this super sort of, I don't want to say complicated because this game's not complicated, but there's this super interconnected sort of thought process that needs to go on about how do I use the cards the best way that I can? How do I balance this timer that's chasing me so I use the cards at the right moments? How do I sort of shift my focus from moving down the canal so the flood doesn't get me, but also making sure to clear enough barbarians that they don't sort of overcome and swarm me and then I lose from the barbarian attacks? And all of this put together is a great, fun package. The game length is sort of just about perfect at just around an hour every time I play the game. The thoughts that go into the game are just sort of the right amount of crunch without too much complicated minutia that you have to deal with while you're playing. And this to me is sort of the perfect sort of spot for a solo game to be in. Now, it can't all be 100% positive. There are some things that I need to talk about that could be adjusted or might bother you in certain situations. But before we do talk about that, I want to talk a little bit about sort of this idea that it is a solo game and talk a little bit about the campaign as well. The idea that it is a solo game, it is a solo game, but what I really love about this as a solo game, it is not a score-based solo game, right? This is effectively a co-op game that you can play, or not can play, that you must play solo. Meaning, I'm not doing beat your own score, and I'm also not competing against an AI for points. Most solo modes that you're going to play are of those two varieties. This is a solo mode that works more like a co-op. And what do I mean by that? There's a goal. There's some kind of end game trigger that I'm trying to achieve before something else happens. And that you see a lot in co-op games, but not so frequently in solo. So it's really exciting to see that kind of a game designed as a solo experience, because I, as a solo player, love to see some freshness thrown into the solo game world. And then the campaign thrown on top of that. Now, when I say campaign here, I want you to understand it's not going to be some groundbreaking legacy game where huge things are changing or components are going away or any kind of enormous thing is happening. But the story here, first off, is a whole lot of fun. Even if big things aren't changing, every time I trigger something, every time I see one of those golden turtles, I want to get it done because I want to see what happens. And sometimes I'm super excited to find some kind of really cool thing that pops out. And sometimes I'm crushed because, like as you saw in my playthrough this time, I defeated a barbarian and suddenly another barbarian was right there in its place and I had to struggle and sort of come up with something quick to deal with that unexpected negative or difficulty that was thrown at me as well. So it's not always something you can sort of predict what's going to come out of the story moment. Sometimes those stories are fun little twists that you don't expect that does change things up in a weird way or in a different way than you expect. Now there are about two actual mechanism changes that do come out in the campaign that I saw. I did play through a full campaign. And those two big mechanism changes do change things quite a bit, do add sort of new things that you need to think about while you're playing the game. But otherwise, most of the changes are going to be sort of different kinds of barbarians that come out, maybe stronger, maybe the way they interact with you is a little bit different kinds of canal cards, different kind of hut cards to interact with, different townsfolk that might be stronger or work in slightly different ways. But even still, it's great because even if this wasn't a campaign, I would play this multiple times. I would come back to this game regularly because it's fun to play. Now, even if there's just a slight change, that slight change adds another layer of variability. And then to have that slight change come along with a story that's based upon this cool ancient Chinese legacy of this man who sort of developed this canal system to prevent the flooding in China, it's cool, and it adds just that much more to the game that I already enjoy. So yeah, it makes it even more exciting and even more fun to play through because I've got this story, because I've got these small changes. And it's cool because these small changes that come out at the end of every game are sort of adaptive to how you play the game. If you win the game, it's likely that something adds to the difficulty in the next game. If you lose the game, it's likely that something makes the next game easier. So the game is sort of always adjusting the balance of the game to sort of challenge you more when you need more challenge and sort of back off and help you more when you need that help. And I really, really love the way that it does that because it doesn't just make it easier or harder. It changes the game in some way that adds to the difficulty or takes away from the difficulty. And I appreciate that. Now, what is the negative to that? The negative to that is if you get something that's very helpful, if you lose early games and get some things that are very helpful, it might make the game easy moving forward. And I say that because I got one card after my first loss, which was my first game, that gave me an ability, and I'm not going to say what it is, but it gave me an ability that made the game quite a bit easier. And it really did mean that I was almost guaranteed, not guaranteed, but I was very likely to win. And I did win all games except one after that point. Now, I have spoken with the designer, and he has said that that card is either coming out or being changed dramatically to change things up because other people had the same experience after getting that card. So definitely take this all with a grain of salt. But I do want to say that even with that card, even what that card did for me, it still was a fun experience every time I went back to the game. Even if I was fairly certain I was going to win, the cool thing is because of the randomness of the cards, because of the sort of tactical nature of the way that the game plays out with different things coming out randomly from the different decks of cards, it meant that sometimes I started off the game with a mix of cards that made things tricky for me. And even if this special ability I had made the end game really easy, the beginning of every game that I started with, I really had to make sure that I put all the pieces in the right place so that when I got to end game, it was easy. Because I was very possible that I was going to crash in that sort of first third of each gameplay. And now if that card isn't in there and the abilities that I get are a little bit less than that, that means it's going to be even more challenging. And more challenge is definitely going to be good for me to have. But again, even without that huge challenge, the puzzle through my head was still a fun one. How to sort of juggle the different resources or different workers or different whatever it is that I was playing with in a certain game was still fun for me, even if it wasn't that difficult a game. Now, in addition to that, there will also be a promo card that comes with this game that gives you 3 different variations or 3 different small changes you can make to the game that can also increase or decrease the difficulty level. So that's even better because if you play this game a lot and you get really used to the game and you get really good at the game, you can start throwing in some of those to make the game a little bit more difficult, a little bit more challenging, a little bit more, another twist, another variation on the way that the game plays. Now, with all that said, the other negative that you might have with this game is the same thing that I just said, and that is the randomness, right? You could have a bunch of cards that come out with stuff that just don't help with the things that you need to accomplish early in the game, and it could really just wipe you out early game before you got your engine running, before you started building up speed. If you just get hit with a really big hard start to the game, it could crush you. And that was the other loss that I had. I did win a game, I did get something added to the game that made it particularly more difficult, and then with the setup for the next game, as the cards came out, just the way that things sort of piled up at the beginning, it made a really, 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 really tough challenge that I didn't have the resources I needed to get past. And because of that, I lost the game. Did it hurt? Not really. If you're somebody who's super anti-randomness, you might be unfortunately unhappy with that part of the game. But for me, two things. Number one, it just made another puzzle. It just added another challenge. Maybe it was not winnable, but maybe I just made the wrong choices and it could have been winnable if I had done something slightly different than what I had done. But number two, it's a campaign. Things are going to play out because of the things you do. So even a loss gives you new story. Even a loss gives you new unlocks. And the game doesn't play out that long. It's not a super long game, especially if you fail. You could fail in a short amount of time. It sets up really easy. It cleans up really easy. So a loss here and then doesn't really matter because I can sit down, I can play again, and I can try one more time. And next time that same bad situation probably isn't going to happen. So for me, that's not a big deal. Again, for somebody who's randomness averse, that might be a problem, but understand that this whole game is based off of cards and card shuffles, and there's different decks coming out. There's the Barbarian deck, there's the Townsfolk deck, there's the 10 cards that you start with from the Townsfolk deck, there's those huts that you place out, there's those canals that you placed out, and all of those get placed out based on a card shuffle. There's a lot you can do to mitigate things. There's many different strategies and tactics you can do to get ahead, which buildings to place, when to place them, where to place them. All of this is there. But ultimately, it's all based on card shuffle, so there's always going to be some level of randomness. And if that bothers you, it's going to bother you. But for me, with all of the different things going on here, all of the mechanisms that I see, the card play, the story for the campaign, the fun little variations that come out, this is a winner for me. I really had a lot of fun with this one. I'm glad that I got the chance to take a look at it. It's on Kickstarter right now if you're watching this video when it goes up. Definitely go ahead and check it out. If it looks like something you'd be interested in, maybe throw some money Garphill's way and grab yourself a copy of it. Otherwise, keep an eye on it and see how it does, and maybe come back to it later if you're still interested in it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, remember to like, subscribe, and click the bell down below, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.